Can you talk a little bit about like how you ended up at AgentSync?
Yeah. The origin story is, I think, quite cool. As far as like the opportunity, like spotting a problem internally at the company that one works at, for Niji's case, Zenefits, and then sort of like finding a market opportunity on the back of that. And so kind of one of the challenges that Zenefits ran into was, as we were scaling really rapidly, ultimately we were brokering insurance policies to small businesses, and selling insurance to anybody is a highly like sort of regulated practice, right? Where you have to be like appropriately credentialed and licensed to sell, whatever, in our case, property and casualty insurance, health insurance. The challenge is it takes a long time to get somebody licensed. And so, Zenefits, as we work culturally, we're always trying to optimize for speed and scale and get people like ramped as fast as possible. And sort of like through all of that and like a series of different things, got fined, which actually fined by state insurance regulators millions of dollars. And what I've found out since then is that's actually a very regular practice that happens to insurance companies all the time. It just isn't as publicized as a high growth venture-backed Silicon Valley company that kind of became a poster child for that reckless behavior. Anyways, Niji was the one who at the time was running RevOps and, kind of away from this problem, but got blessed with being put in charge to fixing it. And so he kind of got this, basically this pool of resources to essentially like evaluate existing tools in the market or go like build one ourselves. And we decided to build it ourselves because most of the technology in the insurance space is pretty just like outdated and didn't really serve our needs. So he built basically an ISV app on the Salesforce platform that sort of validated that any sales rep working an opportunity was licensed in the appropriate state to sell that opportunity. And I think what Niji learned just through a series of conversations with state regulators and a series of conversations with other vendors in the space was that like no one was really doing this in a way that solved the problem for a huge industry, insurance in the US. So after getting Zenefits through that storm, he negotiated the IP of this kind of, the product he built and just started working on it nights and weekends. Interestingly, his wife and partner, Jen, is like a top 1% Salesforce engineer in the entire world, like world class. So they start hacking away at this thing and actually ended up bringing it to market back in 2018. And like, it took a couple years, but they brought on, 10 customers, somewhere to the tune of $1 million in revenue. And that was when I got the call, actually from the COO, who I had a pretty close personal relationship with, and obviously knew Niji and knew Jen by proxy of Niji. And it was at the beginning of COVID, I remember. And I was doing some consulting work at the time and was living in the marina in San Francisco. And then COVID hit, and it was like it was like before the market started ripping in COVID, and it was like, oh my God, this is awesome. It was a little bit of just like the moment of like, what is going to happen here? My wife was pregnant. And like the whole consulting thing that I was doing, which had been great to me, sort of came into question. I got a call from somebody who I had a very close personal relationship with saying, hey, we've scaled this thing to $1 million in ARR. We need a VP of sales. We just closed our seed round. Do you want to move to Denver and do this with us? So we got on a flight and we got out and visited them. And, I was like, it was personal, right? It was like this Zenefits story kind of came to an end to me somewhat on account of this problem not being a solved problem in the space. And between the fact that there was already enterprise traction so early on, and I was getting a chance to work with people that I knew and trusted on day one, and we didn't have to do the whole like, I don't know, like sort of getting to know each other thing. We could get into the work right away. All of that added up to me and my wife making the jump and moving out, a couple months before having our first kid to Denver. And it's been an awesome ride. We've been doing it for 4 years now.
It's an amazing story. And another great example of how you just got to get on a rocket ship whenever one sort of comes to you, no matter what the seed is. And it's an amazing thing in startup world where these opportunities kind of arise out of nowhere, especially in moments of desperation like COVID, which was definitely a weird time back then. I